why your grind is keeping you broken, and why softness might be the only thing that saves you. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French. And I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share something with you that came from a conversation I had recently with Keena Harrien. Keena is a woman who has walked through fire. And instead of letting that fire consume her, she learned how to turn it into light for others. She's someone who has survived incarceration, who has buried loved ones, who has felt the ache of family estrangement, and who is now rebuilding her life, not by grinding herself into the ground, but by choosing softness as her strategy. Keena's impact on the world is profound because she refuses to let her story be a statistic. She is rewriting the narrative for Black women who have lost everything, showing us that we can rebuild without abandoning ourselves in the process. And sis, that's what we're going to talk about today. Because here's the thing, we've been taught that after you lose everything. After you've been to prison, after you've buried your grandbaby, your mother, your aunt, and after you've lost relationships with your son and your family. The only way to come back is to grind harder, toughen up, prove yourself, outwork everyone, show the world you're not broken. But what if I told you that the grind, the hustle, the constant doing is actually keeping you in survival mode? What if the very thing we've been taught is strength is actually sabotaging our ability to build real sustainable businesses, careers, and lives? What Keena Harrien helped me see, and what I want to share with you today is this: softness is not the opposite of strength. Softness is a strategy for survival, healing, and sustainable success, especially for Black women who have survived extreme loss, incarceration, and family estrangement. Let me say that again. Softness is not weakness, softness is strategy. Now, I know some of you are sitting there thinking, LeAnne, I don't have time to be soft. I've got bills to pay. I've got a business to build. I've got people depending on me. And I hear you. I see you. But here's what I need you to understand: softness is not about doing less. It's about doing differently. It's about honoring your nervous system after trauma so you can lead, earn, and create from a stable place, not a shaky one. Softness is capacity management, not indulgence. It's about using slowness, discernment, and emotional honesty to avoid repeating survival patterns in business, relationships, and money. And it's a form of resistance against systems that expect Black women to be endlessly available, endlessly productive, and endlessly forgiving of harm. So let's talk about what this looks like in real life, because I'm not here to give you theory. I'm here to give you truth you can use. Let me tell you about Aziala Rivera. Aziala is a Black woman entrepreneur in Springfield, Massachusetts, who built a freight brokerage company during the COVID-19 pandemic. She became the first Black woman in Massachusetts to own a freight brokerage company. But here's the thing: Aziala didn't just build a business. She built a movement. Asiala watched her father rebuild his life after incarceration. She witnessed both his redemption and the obstacles he faced in re entering society. That personal history gave her intimate insight into the emotional and systemic toll of incarceration on families. And instead of just moving on, instead of just being strong and pretending it didn't happen, she translated her story, her pain, her father's struggle now into infrastructure. During the pandemic, she built CCR Freight Logistics. And then she used that platform to address the structural issues she had seen in her own family's experience. She launched TradeCorps Corp, a nonprofit designed to integrate workforce training, housing assistance, reentry support, and pathways to business ownership in one place. She partnered with organizations like Justice for Housing to build a coordinated system connecting housing placement, CDL training, vocational education, and employment. Now, the article I read about Asiala didn't use the word softness, but her approach reflects soft strategy principles, relational leadership, holistic support, a refusal to see people as only their records. She didn't just grind her way to success, she created a coordinated pathway where participants can access housing, training, and employment, reducing the fragmentation that often derails reentry. She built a public narrative that centers the humanity and potential of people impacted by incarceration, challenging stereotypes, and shifting community expectations. And here's what I want you to catch: Aziala's success didn't come from ignoring her trauma, it came through honoring and leveraging her family's story. She didn't abandon herself to build something, she integrated herself into what she built. That's what softness as strategy looks like: a softer but more powerful form of justice. Now, let me tell you about Valerie Ochoa. Valerie is a formerly incarcerated woman who, through fair chance hiring and supportive employment practices, rebuilt her life to become a tech sales executive, homeowner, business owner, and advocate for fair chance hiring. Within 1 year of her release from prison, Valerie purchased a home and became a business owner. Let that sink in. 1 year. But here's the key: Valerie didn't do it alone. She connected with an employer that practiced fair chance hiring, deliberately opening roles to people with criminal records and providing support beyond just a paycheck. Her employer's soft stance, seeing beyond her record and investing in her growth, created the stability that allowed her to flourish. This is what I mean when I say softness is strategic. Valerie's employer could have taken the hard approach: background check, rejection, next applicant. But instead, they chose to see her as an asset with potential. They met her with trust, support, and realistic expectations. And that shift in how she was perceived, being met with trust instead of suspicion, enabled her to rebuild not just her resume, but her sense of self worth. Valerie rapidly advanced from reentry into homeownership and entrepreneurship within 1 year. She established herself as a tech sales executive, a field with significant earning potential, and she became an advocate for fair chance hiring, using her narrative as a tool for systemic change. This validates that supportive, human centered hiring is not just charity, it is a strategy that produces high performing, loyal employees and community leaders. And then there's She Brews Coffee Roasters and Transition Program. This is a faith based initiative in Claremore, Oklahoma, that employs and supports formerly incarcerated women, helping them rebuild their lives through work, mentorship, and community. A manager at the location, herself formerly incarcerated and in recovery from addiction, uses her story to create pathways of hope and stability for other women coming home. The manager featured in the story turned her history of addiction and incarceration into a mission to help other women avoid the cycles she lived through. She understands both the chaos of survival mode and the tenderness required to rebuild. Her story shows how lived experience plus compassion can become a leadership style, one that makes space for mistakes, growth, and healing while still building a functioning business. The program created a coffee shop and roasting business that doubles as a transition program, offering paid employment, job skills, and a supportive community. They centered leadership from women with lived experience who can model recovery, resilience, and self compassion. And they designed a structure that is firm but soft. Expectations, accountability, and work ethic paired with grace, understanding, and wraparound support. The result? Expansion. The She Brews Coffee Roasters location in Claremore expanded, which created more opportunities for formerly incarcerated women to rebuild their lives. Multiple women gained stable employment, experience in customer service and operations, and a community that supports their emotional and spiritual healing. A visible public narrative in local media reframed formerly incarcerated women as workers, leaders, and neighbors through not just their records. This is Softness as Strategy, a business built on empathy, second chances, and community, which still manages to grow and create employment. It demonstrates a practical, real world example of how, when we design workspaces that honor grief, struggle, and recovery, we not only change individual lives, we reshape how communities understand justice and value. So here's what I want you to take away from these stories: three things. First, your story is not disqualifying, it's strategic data. The fact that you've survived prison, buried loved ones, or lost family relationships does not make you too broken to lead. It means you understand risk, resilience, and systems in a way most business books can't teach. When you treat your story as data, not shame, you can design a business and career that protects your capacity instead of exploiting it. Second, softness is a business boundary and not a mood. Softness shows up in how you set your calendar, how you price your work, what clients you say no to, and how you protect your energy as a Black woman in professional and entrepreneurial spaces. It might look like refusing to overbook yourself, building rest into project timelines, or choosing clients who honor your humanity. This is not being lazy, this is risk management. Third, you can rebuild success without abandoning yourself again. Many of us were taught that the only way to rebuild after crisis is to pick a lane. Either focus on your healing or focus on your money. But sustainable success for Black women means both. Integrating grief work, therapy, spiritual practices, and community care into how we build careers and companies. So we are not trading our sanity and bodies for a second chance. Now, I want to be real with you for a minute because I know some of you are listening to this and thinking, LeAnne, this sounds good, but I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I have the energy. I don't know if I have the support. And sis, I want you to hear me when I say this. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be healed completely. You don't have to have a perfect plan. You just have to start choosing yourself, one decision at a time, one boundary at a time, one moment of rest at a time. Because here's the truth: the world is not going to give you permission to be soft. The world is not going to tell you it's okay to rest. The world is not going to validate your need for boundaries. You have to give yourself that permission. You have to validate your own need for softness. You have to choose yourself, even when no one else does. And I know that's hard. I know that feels scary. I know that feels like you're being selfish. But sis, choosing yourself is not selfish. It's survival, it's strategy. It's the only way you're going to build something that lasts. The stories I've shared with you today, Asiala, Valerie, the women at She Brews, they all prove the same thing. When we stop treating softness as a luxury and start treating it as a leadership strategy, we don't just survive, we thrive. We build businesses that honor our humanity. We create pathways for other women who are coming behind us. We reshape the narrative about what it means to be strong, to be Black, to be a woman who has been through hell and chose to rebuild with grace instead of grinding herself into dust. So here's my challenge to you: if you stop using grind and emotional numbness as your survival strategy and instead treated softness, your rest, your grief, your boundaries as your business plan, what would you change in your life, relationships, or work this week? I want you to choose one practical shift right now. Maybe it's saying no to an energy draining client. Maybe it's taking a real day of rest without guilt. Maybe it's finally scheduling that therapy or grief session you've been putting off. And I want you to commit to it as an act of leadership, not indulgence. Because, sis, your softness is not what broke you. Your softness is how you're going to rebuild your life, your business, and your relationships on your own terms. This is not about being weak. This is about being wise. This is about refusing to let the systems that tried to break you dictate how you rebuild. This is about reclaiming your power by honoring your capacity. The world needs what you're building, but it needs you whole, not hollow. It needs you rested, not running on fumes. It needs you soft, not shattered. So take the cape off, set the boundary, take the rest, choose yourself, and watch what happens when you stop surviving and start thriving. This is your invitation. This is your permission. This is your soft girl era. Now go live it,